I'm Dixie. I am a certified coach, and I am really passionate about being healthy, mentally, emotionally, spiritually healthy. I call that place the intangible place inside of us, and I'm very passionate about it. Like most people, that passion comes from my own experience. Because I experienced the pain of being very unhealthy in these areas, and then experienced a change in my life that has made such a huge difference. And, I feel like I'm healthy in this area now. I'm learning to be healthy and practicing being healthy. And I want to share with everyone who's back where I was, right? I think that's a lot of times when passion comes from, when we're passionate about something, it comes from something of our own experience. Maybe you've been to a place and then you're passionate about it. So that's my story. That's why I want to talk to you today. And what I want to ask you, I'm really enjoying asking these deep questions, is do you walk by fear or faith? And what I mean by that is as you're living your life, what is your default? What do you typically go to right off the bat? And I know for me, it was always fear. And what fear looks like, just to kind of give you an idea, fear is where, not just that you're afraid, but it's also where you're in a place where you're trying to control. You want to make sure you have control as much as possible. Even if it's just an illusion, you try to make sure your house is spotless. You try to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. You try to control the people around you. You try to control the experiences that are going on, all that kind of stuff. That really comes from a sense of fear. It's also where you want everything uniform. You want everybody to do things like you do. You want everybody to think like you do. You want everything to be in its place. You have just this specific thing that is the right way and everything else is wrong. And that really comes from that sense of fear inside of us. Probably the worst part is when you when you function out of just fear, or that's your default, like mine was, you always see what you don't want. A situation will happen, good or bad, either way. And if you're functioning out of fear, you always see what you don't want to have happen. You meet somebody that you really like and you think, I hope they like me. And then right off the bat, you think they're not going to like me. They're not going to this or that. You just automatically go into that fear mode. A situation comes up where maybe you could, put in for a new job or do something like that. And right away you start thinking they're not gonna accept me. This is gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Anyway, kind of, all the things that you don't want to have happen, the things that you actually want to avoid, is typically what comes first. Another one would be, to me, it's kind of like you see everything as a failure. If you don't succeed at something, especially even if it's the first time you ever tried it, you feel like you failed. Those are kind of natural responses from walking in fear or living out of fear. And I really believe that when you're just in autopilot going about your life, most of us function out of fear. And it's sad because I think it has a place. I think it's a good thing. Our bodies are designed to protect us, and we have this inner design that says, hey, if something's wrong, this is how we're supposed to respond. But this is not what's supposed to drive our life. This is not supposed to be in control of everything else. So, the opposite to me of this, the opposite of walking in fear, is walking in faith. And what that looks like is nearly the opposite. When you're walking in faith, you're really trusting. So when a situation happens, you can actually trust that whatever is best is what's going to happen. If that person doesn't like you back, then that wasn't the right thing for you. If you don't get that job, it wasn't the right thing. You're trusting that there's something bigger, something further, that you can't see maybe, or that you don't understand. But it really is trusting. You don't have to have control. You don't have to own this, because it's really outside of your control, and you can trust that it's all going to work out. It's really the truth, when you're walking in faith, because we really don't have control, and we really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And there's just as much opportunity for things to go right as there is for things to go wrong. So it's really more of a true place to be. When you're walking in faith, when you're living in faith, you see all the things you do want. When you meet that person, you think, your natural response is, we're going to be best friends. We're going to be really close. We're going to get to know each other. or a situation comes and you think, why not me? I could get that job, or I could do that. I could, whatever it is. It's like, it's because you're not having to control it. You're able to kind of let go and accept the things that are coming into your life. For me, one of the things I think that has been most profound with this has been creativity. When I was always walking in fear, I wanted everything the same all the time. I wanted, everything was black or white. It had to be right or wrong. But with walking in faith, it's almost like now I see the value in all the different opinions, all the different ways of looking at situations. And I am able within myself to come up with ideas and things that I never would have considered before. I always kind of had these check marks that you had to meet this certain thing or follow this certain formula. And with creativity, it's not like that. You're able to explore, well, what if we tried this, or what if we did that? And really opens up your imagination and just creates a different environment inside of you that you're allowed to really dream and create. And I believe that's how we were designed. I believe when we're functioning in this way, in living in faith, we start to feel alive. We start to feel that passion that's inside of us. And that's what makes me think, hey, this must be how I was designed, because this feels really great when you're living this way. And I believe that in stepping out in faith, that's where our transformation starts to happen. When we're afraid and we're trying to control and we're watching for all the negative things, it's almost like we're closed. We really can't receive things, and we really can't contribute things either. But when we kind of step out, when we open ourselves up and we say, I'm going to trust that my life is going to turn out exactly how it's supposed to. When we believe in ourselves enough to spend the time dreaming and creating and trusting and believing, when we do those little things, we start to change. And that, again, to me is another testament. This is how I was designed. I was designed to walk in faith, to know that there is purpose and meaning to life, and that every different color, every different design, every different person has value and meaning, and I can learn from them. And for me, that's where the transformation has taken place. So I know the terminology gets thrown out there a lot. Are you walking in fear? Are you walking in faith? But I didn't really understand it until I actually had the experience myself. And I said, you know what? Every day I have to ask myself, because my default still, if I'm not thinking about it, I default back to fear. But I can spend that time each day and say, I want to walk in faith. I want to choose to see the good in life and to appreciate everything and look at all the things I want. And so I just really encourage you, ask yourself, where your default is, and then what is it that you want? I think most of us want to walk in faith. We just don't know how. And so, for me, it's been a practice, and every day I remind myself, and every day I observe it. And there's 3 steps in my mind that really help us in these areas whenever you see something. And the first one is to observe it. And so that's why I like to ask questions. Like, what are you thinking, and where do you come from, and all those kind of things. And once we see it and say, oh my gosh, that is what I'm doing, then we can interrupt it. Then we can make change. Then we can say, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this. And we start practicing making those changes. And then that third one is really the repetition, that every time you observe it, every time you see that you're doing that again, you recognize it and you say, that's not what I want. I want this. And you make that change and you practice that over and over and over again. And pretty soon you're really strong in that area. Every time that fear comes up, you just automatically say, nope, that's not how I'm going to respond. So hopefully that encourages you, gives you something to think about today. Have an awesome day.